So if you stumbled upon this Home Assistant thing and you're just wondering, what exact hardware should I run Home Assistant on? Should I just do the thing that everybody recommends and just run Home Assistant green? Call it a day? Maybe so. But hang out. You can get more bang for the buck with room to expand. In this video, you can skip some of the intro stuff. You can skip the chapter stuff, whatever, because I do talk a lot. And we're going to show you how to load HAOS on some of these different machines. HAOS, if you're not familiar, that's the Home Assistant image that kind of does everything for you and probably what you should start out with. So that leads us down to, should I start with this? It's a great little machine. It's the Home Assistant Green. Pulls 1 to 3 watts or so. Comes ready with HAOS. You can reload your own thing, but there's no expanding storage on it. Everything's going to be soldered on, and you're going to be running at like $100. In performance, you're hitting that Pi 4. So if you have the current Pi 4, I would say this is not an upgrade for you. It's going to be the same. It may even be kind of a downgrade for you. Don't buy that if you got the Pi 4 especially. Even if you had the Pi 3. Now, I guess talking Pis, Pi 5, I covered this one. I would say by the time you get into this guy and do the micro SD card stuff, yeah, that's not great. Then you start to do NVMe. By the time you spend all that money on the Pi 5, you might as well go with like a Beelink type deal. And no, Beelink did not sponsor this video. There's nothing to this, any sponsors here at all. So they probably don't even know who I am, which that probably might be a good thing. But the Beelinks are great little nooks. They're an N95 Intel processor, which also gives you a little bit of GPU stuff if you get into that later with doing like Frigate and Plex, etc. And these prices do vary a good bit. It's going to vary from like, I've seen them down as low as 115, which by the time you tack on shipping and stuff with the green, you're right in the same range. And this is like 5 to 6 times faster, if not more, for considering like the Pi 4 green stuff. And then the memory's not soldered on, the storage isn't soldered on, because you're going to see, I'm going to open this guy up, we're going to load Home Assistant straight on it. Now, if you're thinking, well, what if I go with something that's a refurb? Yeah, we did cover these. These are the little Dell little refurbs. This was a Core i3 7100, I believe. And yeah, it's just a little mini computer. They call this an USFF, the ultra slim form factor. You can find these on eBay, Amazon, or even locally if you have a refurb computer and it's really stupid cheap, go that route. I'm not trying to make you buy some crap. If you got something locally, go you do that. You keep it from going into a landfill. You're not having to buy new, because even some older little computers are great for running Home Assistant on. Now then, this Kamrui, this is like a little plastic case one. It's an N95 as well. I haven't opened this one up. I suspect it doesn't have the best memory and stuff on it, but I guess it will. Check it out. Now, you can go with a beast. You could go with a beast such as the Geekum. This is like the a little bit older 12th generation i7, and yeah, you're gonna pay for it. But it's too much. It's overkill for just running HAOS. If you plan to go down the road and you're going to do like Proxmox or some other type of stuff, you're just going to run a Debian, do your own thing, maybe you'll want to get into some bigger processing stuff such as those. But that's not what this video is about. We're trying to start out beginner. That way you can spend most of your time focusing on, making smart plugs work and motion sensors work that turn on the light in the bathroom without all the worry of all the stuff of like, hey, what container runs this, or LXC runs this, or VM, or blah, blah, blah. Yet no, you're just going to put the one image on the computer, and then we're going to start up Home Assistant and get it done. Now, what all do you need? You can, let's put all this crap out the way. we're going to focus on the Beelink because that's one of my favorite, the little Beelink Nook. And if you're curious, the wattage of this, I clocked, I think at idle and Home Assistant was like 6 to 7 watts. So it's going to be a little bit more than, you know, say the Home Assistant Green. But do keep in mind that if you're that worried about 5 watts, you're probably not going to want to do a smart home, because by the time you start with a smart home and you start adding smart bulbs and smart plugs and motion sensors and everything, and the wattage is gonna, nothing crazy, but by the time you add like 30, 40, 50, or like me over 100 and something devices, 5 watts doesn't matter. So that's why I would prefer to stick to the N95 style, because that gives you a lot of room to grow. So back to what do you need, and I'm jumping all over here, is this little guy here. This is the little Sabrent. They make a bunch of different ones of these. And what is this exactly? Is this allows you to take the NVMe drive out of the Beelink and put it in here, and that way you can load HAOS very simply. Now you could do the live USB boot method, but I will tell you it's just a pain in the ass. I tried it just to see if it's any easier. I find it easier just to unscrew the 4 screws, take the NVMe out, pop it in, and ready to go. And then if for some reason you have a catastrophic failure of some port, then now you understand the dynamics of everything of, hey, how do I load HAOS on a new system, because you've already done it once. It's kind of like the whole thing of doing 3D printer repairs and you never built the 3D printer yourself. So let's jump into and take this guy apart to pull the NVMe. Don't get crazy, it's just 4 little screws. If you use the Phillips screwdriver, you're already well ahead of the game. So this is the Beelink Nook. And we're going to be taking the NVMe drive out of this. And you really just need to remove the 4 screws. And then you can just pop the top off, and that's it. This has an expansion for, you know, throwing in a little like SATA hard drive in the actual top. Pretty awesome. But the cool part is the crucial memory that comes with this guy. And yeah, everything is soldered on, except for your NVMe and your memory. So you can change the memory if necessary, but the Wi-Fi in this one is going to be soldered on. That's the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. Now we really won't be using that much. I guess if you really want to use Bluetooth with Home Assistant, you could use that chipset, but probably want to use Bluetooth proxies anyway. Just take that little screw out, and then we're going to pop this stick out. This is the little NVMe stick. And then this is what you're going to need here is the Sabrent. Now they make a bunch of different brands of this. This was just one of my favorites that I found. I've used the hell out of this. And you'll find, of course, all the links down below to all this stuff. And to pop this in, it's toolless. It's just take and just pop it in at an angle. You'll feel it kind of, you know, wedge in there. And then if you push it down, and then there's a little clip. You turn it with your fingernails, it keeps it down, and then you close the door, and that's it. And then you have USB-C on the end that give you the cable for USB-C to C and then USB-C to A. And so then let's jump on over to the computer, and we'll pop in HAOS straight on this NVMe. Now I'm curious what's inside of this. This is going to be a little cheaper model. This is like a little USB thing. You can throw in your hard drive in there if you want for expansion. But is it as easy to throw HAOS on this as it is the Beelink? Yeah, you can. But you can see the one issue here. Where's the RAM? I'm assuming it's probably soldered on the bottom of this one. I'm not going to fully take this apart because, yeah, I don't see any way that is going to be a room to like clip RAM in there. So yeah, they do have the NVMe. You can pull that out fairly easy. Now once you do have your little NVMe and your little NVMe USB adapter, and Keep in mind, this also applies to like all the other devices that you can pop out the NVMe in, whether it be like a refurb laptop or whatever. Just we're showing this on the Beelink because it's just a great value for what you get in that N95. So, of course, you'll find the link for all this stuff down below. Pop in the NVMe, and then we'll just plug it in USB-C to our computer. Yeah, the software you're going to need, I use Beelink Etcher. It's fairly simple to do. Just download it. I think they even have like a portable one. Of course, they have it for Mac OS, Linux, etc. Pick the one that you need. I just grabbed the portable one. I don't feel like installing junk. Then go to Home Assistant IO and jump to getting started. Now, of course, some of this may change because they do evolve the documentation over time, but it's not going to change a whole lot. Just look for like installation and then look down, of course, easiest. Well, we're going to do the best. So come down to the one they don't want you to use, and they say it's hard. No, it's not hard.
That's what she said.
Trust me. And scroll down for, you can see this is all the stuff for like the Ubuntu Live stuff. And I found there was even more steps than this when I was running into dependency errors and stuff. And I was just like, screw it. I'm going NVMe, spend the 20, 30 bucks and call it a day and save your sanity. So, yeah, where is here we are, Beelink Etcher. So we want to look for, we need this. Now I have found that sometimes when you paste this into Beelink Etcher, it throws a fit. You're supposed to be able to just paste it in there, but just go ahead and download it. I find that's just the solid way to do things. Just paste it into another tab, let it download. It's going to download on your machine, and then we'll jump over to Beelink Etcher. So once you have Beelink Etcher installed or just running, whatever it may be, I was tempted, like I say, to use the URL, but it doesn't always work for me. So I just download the file, hit flash from file, pick the HAOS generic file that you just downloaded, and then you're going to need to select target. Be careful on this one, but they do have it where it won't let you flash like your OS drive. So this is that Sabrent. You can see it says 256 gig, and that's going to be from the Beelink. Definitely a lot more storage than you'll find in other devices for like the same cost. So then we got Sabrent USB, and I don't want to show the hidden. Those are the ones that's keeping me, protecting me from, being dumb. So then we're going to hit select, and then we'll hit flash. And it does give you a warning. It's a large drive, but that's what comes in. The Beelink is a 256 gig. And then even if you get like some of the N100s, they're like 500 gig. So say, yes, I'm sure. And then you'll see it kind of goes through the process of writing everything. And while you're at it, if you do get stuck on any of this process or parts or whatever, definitely come join us down in Discord down below. You'll find the link down there in the description. Really simple. Just click it and rock and roll. Hang out with some friendly people and do all the smart home things. So we're going to fast forward all the way through to 100%. And that way you don't have to hang out and listen to me ramble all day. So once it's finished, we'll just go ahead and close Beelink Etcher. And you can go and hit eject on it or just wait a little while and then you can pop it from it. It's definitely going to empty the cache from the computer. And then we'll put this back in the Beelink and reverse that process. So there are a couple things I like to go over in the actual BIOS setup. If you're not familiar with that, you're going to need to hook up a keyboard and a screen to the Beelink. And again, this all applies to a lot of different like refurb computers and everything. It's just the screen's going to look different behind me here. And most of the keys are like delete keys, or sometimes it's like F10, F12, F4. You just got to kind of look up your box. But for the most part, just keep mashing and spamming the hell out of like F10, 11, F12 and deletes. And you'll finally get some sort of BIOS setup screen because it'll complain about you mashing the keys too much. So this is that Beelink. You can see we do have the 8 gig of RAM and definitely a lot more than other machines. And what I'm looking for, I didn't change really anything in here, but was the power at basically if it loses power. Now, one setting I found that was in that little Dell computer, and probably applies to many others, is do make sure it's going to be different. So you're going to have to dig, but go dig around. You're going to be looking for this SATA. If you're using the SATA port on it, same thing for NVMe. We found that you had to be in AHCI mode. Otherwise, it gave some error about, let me read here. Otherwise, it gave some TSC clock source error at boot, and you had to reflash things, everything. So just make sure AHCI is set in the SATA mode operation if it isn't already. Now, the Beelink one for the power state is kind of weird. It says state after G3, and you definitely need to make sure that's SO state. They call that the working state. Some other computers will actually say, in layman's terms, it'll say like power on or power off or previous state. And of course, your Home Assistant, you always want it to be on. So we're going to try this out. I'm going to save changes and exit. Now, if you still can't get your box to boot, and because you got some sort of, security boot errors, if you did notice in Home Assistant, in the documentation, I probably skipped over, is you do need to make sure in your BIOS that you have UEFI boot enabled and secure boot disabled. I think that's stock pretty much in Beelink, and that way you can boot up and do your Home Assistant right there. If you get stuck with some of this stuff, of course, jump down. You'll find the link, the digiblur DIY Discord, and we'll help you go through some of the different things on your specific box or computer and get you going and running. Now, once you do have this installed, back together, and you have HAOS on it, you haven't powered it up yet, do keep in mind you don't need to use the HDMI ports on the back. You really can put this up in like your closet or whatever by your router, because you're just going to be using the power port, and then you're going to use the Ethernet port on the back. I don't recommend using Wi-Fi for a Home Assistant. It's just, that's the whole brain of everything, and you should just keep it wired and just plug it in like in a battery backup or whatever right next to your router, and that way it stays and it's just solidly linked up to the, your network. Now, if you do want to hook up the HDMI port just to see the IP address, that's one way to find out how to browse over to it. You can also just check your router or whatever and see what new device has pulled an IP address. It's going to be different for kind of everybody. There's also, if you can do homeassistant.local in your browser, it might pull up that way as well. So let's give it a shot and we'll see what pulls up. So once you go ahead and browse over to homeassistant.local or just go to that IP address, you will need to put :8123 at the end, and it will bring you to the wonderful onboarding page from Home Assistant. And you'll just hit create my smart home. And then this is going to be your user and password, like your main guru guy. So don't forget the password or anything like that. You can always add additional users later. If you really forget the password, there is a way where you can go and reset that password if you have access to the box itself. So nope, we're not in Amsterdam. We will set our location. Sure, that works great. It's really going to be for like your time zone, and then like the dusk to dawn stuff. And it's really good for like, I use it to close the shades. So I would suggest to go set that as a location, if not your exact location, because it's going to be used for a few things down the road. You can always change it later. And if you want to turn on analytics, usage, for them, I'm not going to for this box. I'm not going to just, because I've thrown it up there for a split second. No need to do that. It's already, you can see, finding devices in my home that I have. Now, I already have Home Assistant and everything, but you can see even with the Bluetooth chipset, it's already finding a bunch of Bluetooth devices. So really, it's going to find stuff automatically. Hit finish, and it just starts popping things up. How freaking awesome is that? You could go in here and start to say, hey, I want to turn on the studio speaker. You can hear it, and we could play stuff on it if we want to. You can do text-to-speech things with it. It's all like right there. I already have some, some devices, some Bluetooth devices it's picking up on from like all the way across the house, seeing the weather, etc. you can jump in and see the notifications. It's going to say, hey, we showed all these new devices. It'll walk you through configuring all this. Now, this is all going to be different based on what you have in the home. And you can just, hey, I want to pull in the SwitchBot stuff. That's through Bluetooth. It's finding my Shelly devices, other Bluetooth devices. Then you've got everything it shows as configured right here. Plus, if I get my fat head out the way, you can hit add integration. You can add all of these crazy integrations for all the different things that you want, but that's a whole different video, just trying to help you get involved and get your Home Assistant rocking and rolling. And that's what we've done here. So if you've done that, congratulations. You've done a great job. You got Home Assistant running in the home. And definitely stay tuned for future videos. We're going to show you how to and what devices and everything and the automations, etc., on your Home Assistant box itself. And while you're waiting on me to procrastinate and take a long time, you can start to go dig off into the settings and go look at all the different add-ons you can put in here. And you can go to the add-on store and find all the different apps and everything that you want, like ESP Home and different things, Node-RED, great for automations, Plex, the whole 9 yards you can load on your Home Assistant box. And there's a lot of stuff that you can do. You don't have to, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do. That's always the things I find that with Home Assistant is, hey, can it, I never ask, hey, can it do this? No, it's always like, oh, damn, it can do that. You'll see. Now, if you want to see some future stuff to go over Zigbee and all the different things to control some smart home devices and everything, we're kind of going to do this restart on our series of all the beginner from ground up of different things of what I would have done differently in my smart home if I knew that much back then, what, 5-6 years ago, probably, or more. So definitely shoot the subscribe button, bell icon, shoot us a comment down below if you'd like to see something, you know, that we have coming up in a future video. Cool.
Whoa!
You want to drive that?
Yeah.
What you gonna do with it?
If I had my metal detector, I dig that out, dig it up, and get treasure. Find treasure.
You think you'd find some treasure? Take it. Boy, you got it. You got it, bro.
Your potatoes, that was all.
Those are pears.
Oh, pears.
Yeah,
Better.
he likes pears. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're good.